Welcome to the Hello Road podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is episode number 8. Today we have our first guest not named Brad, which is pretty exciting. Our guest today is Derek Powell, a writer and on-screen host. You may have seen his written work in Autoweek, Car and Driver, Motor Trend, and more. You may have seen him host the Toyota film series titled Inventionaries. Welcome, Derek.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here.
I'm excited you were able to join us. So we should probably see what's going on with everybody. What are you up to, Derek?
What am I doing?
Are you busy?
Well, I've kind of embraced my 40s as a renaissance of learning how to write better.
Okay.
I think I've always been a writer. I would probably even say bullshitter. In high school and college, I always took the classes that got me through without having to think about it, without having to study, without learning anything.
Sure.
I would just write stuff.
Okay.
And a couple of years ago, I was faced with a challenge of writing in a very certain style. And it really tasked me. And at the same time, it really inspired me. And I thought, I want to write better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just kind of coast on what I've been doing my whole life. I want to do something different. So,
But you've been writing your whole life.
I've been writing my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's always been on autopilot. It's not like I can just sit down and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to crank this out.
Yep.
But I've always just adhered and relied on a certain style and just my old bag of tricks.
Uh-huh.
And for my 40s, I thought I really want to use this opportunity to be better.
Was there something that inspired that?
Just
getting older? Oh, I'm 40. I better.
So, and I think we'll get to this in a little bit, but 2013 and 2014 were pretty, I would say, revolutionary for me. I've been ghostwriting for a long time, and around this time, I was working with this production company, and they said, we want these director bios in a certain style.
Uh-huh.
And the style was these two authors, Daniel Handler, who wrote Lemony Snicket, and David Foster Wallace, who wrote Infinite Jest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love both of these writers because Daniel Handler is very whimsical, and he's wordy, but it's fun, and you just kind of get pulled into the pages because he writes adult fiction as well as young adult. And he has this really neat style of taking a character's name and applying it to different characters within the same story, but has the talent to pull you through so you understand that he's applying the character's name to a completely different character or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just a lot of fun. And, David Foster Wallace has written these tomes and can make a sentence last for pages. And so they wanted these director bios, about 165 words in these two styles. So you have to take somebody's life, compress it in 165 words, and then apply two larger-than-life author styles.
Piece of cake.
Easy stuff.
Yep.
And at the same time, I'm also a voracious reader. When I was a kid, I would read Stephen King, Dean Koontz. I got kicked out of school in 6th grade, and instead of telling my mom, I just kind of wandered off into the forest and read Silence of the Lambs for the afternoon. And when I admitted this to her, she was like, "Cool,
Oh, that's fine.
yeah,
Acceptable.
you want to go see the movie?" Yeah. So anyway, I was reading this book called The Gone Away World by Nick Harkaway, and I just picked it up on a recommendation, and I wasn't expecting anything different. But the writing was so dense, and at the same time, really every word mattered. It was really concise, and I just read it, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!"
Mm-hmm.
And instead of intimidating me, I'm sure we've all seen those artists, whatever whatever creative space that we kind of land in, we see our other artists and we compare ourselves to them,
Sure.
whether conscious or subconscious. And I saw this one. Oh, by the way, his dad is John le Carré. So,
No big deal.
no big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm reading this book, and instead of being intimidated, I was inspired. I was like, I don't know if I could do it, but I could do a lot better than what I was doing.
Sure.
And right around that time, I also had my first um, automotive journalist piece published in Autoweek. So it was just a lot at once. And I thought, well, I want to continue on this journey of being better than what I am. And so that's kind of informed the past couple of years. And so this year, it's kind of like the year of doing. I took a novel writing seminar a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And for my birthday, which is in a week, I'm going to Nashville and doing a multi-day songwriting seminar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you play, or
I
just
have-
like lyrics,
I
or
Can't play anything to save my life.
that's fine.
Yeah. And it's
Many
funny.
musicians can't.
Yeah, the questionnaire was like, it's like, oh, well, you need a keyboard when you visit Jonathan. It's Jonathan Brooke is headlining the songwriting seminar, and she's one of my favorite one of my favorite singer-songwriters. So to be able to take a course with her is pretty amazing. But they said, do you need a keyboard when you meet with her? I said, no, I do not. Unless you're talking about a laptop keyboard.
Sure.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just show up with. Maybe can you sing? Maybe anything?
Yeah. So I mean, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to know? Do you want to go about
I guess
my life?
automotive podcast. Do you sing? Maybe is not a question that's come up very often. Yes.
Yeah. Just short detour. Yeah. I
Yeah.
went to performing arts school after college.
Okay.
And I realized very quickly, and it's kind of like writing, where you can explore these different artistic endeavors. But I realized very quickly I did not want to be on stage. I'm not the best in front of camera.
Okay.
So I decided to kind of channel my energies in a different way.
Sure. Yeah. That's so you're kind of focusing on the writing stuff. Obviously, you have done some on-screen stuff though.
I have done, yes.
for that Toyota thing. So how was that?
So
if you're not sort of
that was
comfortable, because you
amazing.
seemed comfortable on screen.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I credit that to my years in commercial production and writing for these directors.
Sure.
So I knew exactly what needed to be on screen, and so that was very helpful. I was introduced to the executive creative director of branded content at Hearst Media by this amazing director, Sinway Xavier. And I've been friends with Sinway for years. He's a huge Land Rover guy.
Okay.
He's got a 1961 Series 2, and just all around amazing guy. And he was doing a car and driver shoot with this creative director, and she said, do you know anyone who writes cars? She had just come over from Lucky Magazine and was going into Hearst and overseeing Car and Driver and Road and Track and Popular Mechanics, and she was like, I need to meet some car writers. And
Sure.
so Sinway said, well, you should meet this guy, Derek. And so he introduced us, and I wrote a couple of pieces for them. And then she said, hey, we're pitching Saatchi and Toyota on this piece called Inventionaries. And it's a series of films that chronicles new inventors around the nation. Can you write the pitch? Because that's what I do. So I wrote the pitch in October of 2015. Didn't think anything else of it, cashed the check. And then late December, early January, she came back to me and she said, hey, they've been greenlit. Can you write the scripts for the films?
Wow. Yep.
I said, sure, I can write the scripts. So I wrote the scripts, and I wrote them with a host in mind, because I think when you're profiling inventors, especially, having them just kind of talk to the camera without any interaction, it's kind of like doing a podcast by yourself.
Sure. Well, and if you're talking to these inventors, they're the ones that have all the knowledge and all the information, and you probably just need to get it out of them.
You want to draw it out of them,
yeah.
and because it's 9 films, you want to create a through line that takes you from one to the next. You're like, oh, I know this host.
Sure.
And I wrote them with a host in mind. Didn't even occur to me that I would be doing something like that. And during the pre-production meeting, the project manager first said, "Hey, can you host these?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, well, I guess so." And so they introduced me to the director and this amazing director, Lena Plioplite, from Lithuania, and we got on great and just kind of worked on the scripts and then
Yeah.
traveled around the country and shot these driving the Prius,
Nice.
and it was just awesome.
Yeah. It looked like, I mean, just from watching it, it seems like it was probably a ton of fun just to, not even to host, but just to be there and learn all the things that these people are working on. It was a pretty cool series.
It was
Yeah.
so great. It was one of the most memorable experiences I've had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Crazy. So yeah, would you say that hosting is something that you'd want to do again in the future, or that just sort of like a one-off thing that just kind of happened and
Well, I mean, since you're asking,
Oh, okay.
since you're asking, I was fortunate enough to meet Johnny Lieberman a couple of years ago, and it was around the same time that I had written a piece for Autoweek, chronicling Sinway's Series 2.
Yep.
And Johnny saw the piece, and I guess he didn't hate it.
Yeah.
And so he kind of remembered that, and then when Motor Trend was looking for a new host to pair up with him
Yep.
for head to head,
Yep.
he said, "Oh, hey, why don't you bring Derek in?"
Yep.
And so Ed Lowe, the editor-in-chief of Motor Trend, reached out to me. He had seen the Prius films.
Yep.
And he said, "Oh, hey, we're looking for a host. Do you want to come in and kind of talk to us about it?" And so I did. And at the same time, Ed was like, I mean, Ed's so cool. Ed is like the most chill editor-in-chief I have ever met. I don't know how he manages to do half the things he does, but he always has a smile on his face. And Motor Trend's really a great family. So he said, "Hey, by the way," kind of like a throwaway thing. He said, "Oh, hey, by the way, what are you doing in a couple of weeks?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I think I was going to go to Detroit and see the Belle Isle Grand Prix." And I told him this. He goes, "Oh man, that's too bad." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, Subaru is trying to set a record with their Type RA at the Nürburgring, and we need someone to cover it. But if you know,
I'm busy.
If you're going to the Belle Isle Grand Prix," I was like,
hard pass.
yeah, I was like, you know what? You know what? I've canceled it. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go. So I'm leaving for this trip, and right before the trip, Johnny says, "Hey, can you come out to Fontana and audition for this head-to-head piece?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, my flight leaves at 3 from LAX." And he goes, "Yeah, you can make it to Fontana and then go back." And I thought, okay, no pressure. No pressure
Jeez.
whatsoever.
Just 45 miles away
Yeah,
from
just
LAX.
drive and then
Not
audition.
problem,
LA
yeah.
traffic, no big deal.
So I go out there, and I had completely planned on these 2 cars, and I knew what I was going to say, and I get there, and those cars weren't there.
Okay.
They said, instead of the E43 and the Cayman S, they said, "Oh, hey, can you talk about this Jag XE and this Hyundai Elantra?"
Yep.
And so they turned the camera on, and they said, "Just riff about them. Just say whatever you want."
Sure.
And they turned the camera on, and I went,
Did it just feel like that long, or was it actually?
I
that
know
long?
dead air isn't the best for
a podcast,
for a
but just to
podcast.
want to drive the point home.
But yeah.
We're still here. There wasn't
I
a-
could say, or I could say the camera went on, and I said, and I recounted this at the Motor Press Guild Awards that I hosted a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
and Johnny was in the audience, and from across the room I hear, "It's true."
That's funny.
So I've learned that I'm okay on camera if I have a script,
If you're
and
playing- if you
I
have to
have a
play-
hand in it.
Sure.
If it's just off the cuff, if you turn on the camera and say, "Hey, bullshit on this car, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's
me-
hard to do.
Put me in the car with the rest of the audition was fine. Getting in the car with Johnny is always so much fun.
Mhm.
His knowledge is endless, and it's just a great back and forth.
Yeah.
But standing alone in front of a camera, probably
Sure.
not my strongest strength.
Sure. Well, I mean, you obviously have a pretty insane car knowledge. So do you think it was just nerves or
I think it was nerves.
Or you
I think
just
it's
really-
that pressure to perform.
you just don't care for the Hyundai Elantra?
You know what? The Hyundai Elantra is a pretty damn good
Yeah.
car.
Okay.
But when you're expecting to talk about
Yeah.
an E43,
Sure.
and I wouldn't say my knowledge extends to all things
Sure.
Hyundai
Yeah.
Elantra. So it's an acquired skill, and it's something that you really have to buff up on. And it goes
Yep.
back to me building a life around just writing stuff and
Sure.
bullshitting my way through,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to knowing facts and figures, whether it's law school or medical school. You know, you have to study, and then
Yep.
kind of present the facts. Didn't happen here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I would probably also be very terrible in a situation like that. I kind of see where you're coming
come
from.
on, your videos are great.
Yeah. Yeah. But I definitely thank you. But I definitely have a lot of planning going on in behind the
Yeah.
scenes. And yeah, to riff about Hyundai Elantra right off the top of I'm not sure I could do that.
That could be your next goal.
Okay. I will plan on that. This is a good goal for me. Just
Excellent.
to stand in front of a car, stand in front of a new Elantra and be able to
Mhm.
speak intelligently about it.
Sure.
Yeah. So, Paul,
Yes.
you've got a couple questions for Mr. Derek over here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Why don't you?
Sure. So motorsports. I
Mm.
hear that you had your start in motorsports in a way that wasn't necessarily autocrossing, or
Oh, boy.
one of those typical ways. How
Wheel
did
to
you
wheel.
just-
I mean, I guess there
wheel
is
to wheel?
technically wheel crashing
Well,
into
yeah,
wheel,
yeah. So-
maybe.
So what was that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So I grew up in a tiny little town called Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Population 1,600.
Oh, okay. Pretty small.
It's about 50 miles northeast of Pittsburgh, give or take. And, in a town like Slippery Rock, there's really not much to do.
Sure.
And I had the benefit of parents with some great foresight, and so they sent me away to boarding school for high school, and they wanted me to get a really good education. And I came back after senior year, and I did not recognize anybody I went to school with.
Huh.
They were either high or pregnant or both, and I just realized that's not the direction I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I loved cars even then, and I didn't have an outlet for it. I didn't know about go-karts or
Uh-huh.
racing or anything like that. I had an interest in it. I just didn't have an outlet to explore it.
Sure.
One outlet I did have was at the county fair, and that's where they had demolition derbies. And there was just something about seeing these 70s cars smash into one another and just roar and scream, tires going flat, radiators blowing up, pistons, just shooting through the hood. It was just awesome. And one year I thought, you know what? That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to do a demolition derby. And that was my first entree into motorsports. I was at the Dodge dealer getting my Dodge Neon serviced.
Mm.
And one of the mechanics who we would talk.
Sure.
And he came out and he goes, "Hey man, down the street across the train tracks."
Yep. Other side of the tracks.
Yep.
Ooh.
Literally. I mean, again, Slippery Rock.
Slippery Rock.
He's got a Dodge Magnum that he wants to sell. You should talk to him. And so I went out there, and this guy answered the door. And he was like, "Yeah, I got a Magnum." And I went back there, and it was clear it had not started in years.
Okay.
It probably ran when parked.
Yes.
This is a pretty late model car, right? This is the station wagon.
No. This is so.
we're gonna
This
go
is
further
this
back.
is the The one that has like those plastic. Is it plastic like
Yes,
covers over
glass.
the? They're glass.
Yes.
Oh, glass
They're
covers
glass.
over the
Yes.
headlights.
Yeah.
So this
Okay.
was like a 77 or something.
A 77 or 78.
Yeah.
And it was Dodge's Sporty Coupe.
Okay.
Um,
I still really like how that car looks. That car is really
love
cool.
it. It looks
Yeah.
so good. And
Not after you were done with it, but we can get there.
yeah, it was so it was prosthetic beige,
Yes.
like most 70s cars. And it was prosthetic beige and the strut towers. So one thing about those cars and one thing about Pennsylvania is that rust is never too far away.
Yeah.
And the Magnum had that that downfall of water seeping through the trunk and onto the strut towers. So it was pretty rusty.
Okay.
But not knowing any better, I got a battery and some gas and brought this guy $100 because I thought, this will be great. He
Sure.
can, provide for his wife who's about to give birth or, do something.
Sure.
And nope, he was buying Stones tickets.
Oh, okay.
So we got the car running. I drove it home and we smashed out the windows, spray bombed the sides, and I drove it to the field. My mom came with a handy cam and my dad came with trepidation. And I went out there and started driving around. And bear in mind that the rules for this demolition derby were nothing like nothing for safety, right?
Yeah, I mean,
except for like, oh hey, weld the door shut. That's about it.
Sure, exactly. Do you have
Battery. What's that?
wear a helmet, maybe? Possible. I don't even know.
Oh man.
Back
Yes,
then?
yes. I
Probably
wore a
had to
helmet.
wear it, yeah.
I
So
wore a
no
helmet.
roll cage? We're
No. I mean, the gas tanks were in the stock
Yeah.
location,
Yeah.
which I discovered when a Thunderbird got hit in the back, carved up the top, revealed the gas tank, which started spilling out.
And they just keep going.
And at that point, I thought, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it did.
Ooh.
A spark ignited that gas tank, and it just went whoom.
Oh, geez.
And I was out of that car so fast. And my dad tried to get onto the field and
Oh,
pull me
geez.
off. The officials had to restrain him. And they put the fire out, and I got back in the car and drove around a little bit more. And then the strut towers,
they finally gave away.
They finally gave out,
Okay.
and I just
after the fire.
I couldn't go any longer. And that was my first experience with demolition derbies. And since then, I've probably done a couple dozen of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All around this Slippery Rock general vicinity, or is this extended to recent years too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes to the second answer.
Okay.
The first one, I would say Slippery Rock is the only area in which I actually drove my demolition derby cars to the field.
Wow. Okay.
Not advisable.
Yes.
There was, but I mean, man, where else are you going to have this experience of driving a Delta 88
Yeah.
to the fair where there's a tornado warning
Yes.
and they go on with it anyway?
Yep.
Because God damn it, there's going to be a demolition derby.
Exactly. People are going to leave there really upset if these cars don't get smashed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had a question. Are there any particular vehicles that?
Yeah. So in the different derbies that you had entered, was there any time that you were lined up to maybe smash into somebody and you're like, damn, that's a really good clean example of a 88 Toyota Tercel or something that would be like looked at today as almost a collectible car.
Are people on the Malaise Motors Facebook group going to look down on you for having crashed a Lincoln Town car? But
Did they protest the events basically?
You do not say the D word on Malaise Motors.
yes,
You do not.
No.
Having said that, so I would say it's mostly 70s Detroit Iron that has the best spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the cars I chose and the cars for the most part that were out there, this was actually kind of a fitting end to their lives.
Okay.
If you saw it in street form, you would just kind of like sigh and shake your head and be like,
Why is this still driving?
yeah,
it's
oh
too
my
late
God.
for
Put it
that
out of its
car.
misery.
Yeah. But in a demolition derby, it's kind of like a second life.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's going out in a blaze of glory.
Yes.
literally,
Literally.
a blaze of glory.
Yes.
But I paired up with this guy Danny from Lincoln Parts International out in Paris when I moved out here, and we happened upon a great formula for demolition derby cars. Because he was in the parts business, he knew what constituted a survivor versus a parts car.
Sure.
And for these Lincolns, if the front fenders were toast, there really wasn't much that he could salvage body wise. So I would say for the first part of the decade, or for the first decade of the 2000s, I built a lot of cars.
Okay.
And I found that the Lincoln Mark V was my favorite car for the derbies because it had a cable shifter as opposed to one with linkage, so it wouldn't bind up. It was directly connected to the transmission.
Sure.
The 460 and the C6 powertrain is just pretty much indestructible. So I was tasked with taking apart the car, dismantling it, taking out everything that he could resell, such as the dash and the instrument cluster and the interior trim, those little opera windows, hood ornaments. And then, it would take me a couple of weeks. I would drive out to Paris every weekend and put together these cars. And we created like a gas can mount that would hold a gas can to go on the inside over the hump in the back. We fabricated a double battery angle iron setup that we would bolt to the front passenger's footwell.
Okay.
And so everything was modular. We could move from Mark V to Mark V and just kind of keep everything intact. And so it became a great system.
Sounds a lot safer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot safer out in California, at least at
this time.
The derbies that I attended, they also, one of the requirements is that they had to be stock. There was no concrete in the fenders. There was no structural. The thing about that is that it just creates a car that's indestructible, and that gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
Part of
you
the
want to
fun,
see them fall apart.
Yeah, part of the fun of a demolition derby is seeing that carnage.
Yep.
So yeah, to answer your question, I really erred on the side of trying to find cars that were just kind of within an inch of going to the crusher anyway, and I was just sending them off with a salute to their lives. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like when I think of a demolition derby, I think of a lot of the Malaise era cars being present there, but I also think of things like, a bunch of Subaru brats running around out there or something like that. Something that, at least me, I would be really sad to see get smashed up into a billion pieces or whatever the case may be. But I mean, even still with these cars, but when you put it like that, where it's like a send off, it's almost like a Viking funeral for the car, especially if it catches fire.
Seriously. Instead of like pushing that dude out into the water, it's just like taking them on a mud field, pitting them against their competition. Their original competition,
from back in the
DeVille
day,
going up against a Continental.
Yes,
and the flag drops and off you go.
Yeah.
Did any of the cars you ever built get eaten by Robosaurus?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Just got to check. I think Demolition Derby. I think the end of it, Robosaurus comes out
and rips the cars apart.
Even more.
What was cool though is that sometimes the cars would get stuck together so hard that they would have to bring out two front end loaders and pull them apart. And there was this one time when I hit this, I backed into a Buick Electra so hard that they became fused, trunk to engine bay, and the front end loaders pulled them so hard that they just kind of came up into the air and finally gave way, and they were kind of flung in separate directions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
that's nuts.
That sounds like an absolute insane thing to do. Like it sounds insanely fun. I've never been to a demolition derby, but
oh man,
I don't know. It sounds like something I might gotta.
You definitely got to go to one.
Yeah. I gotta go. No,
I mean, summer's the time for it. I would highly recommend going to the Orange County Fair.
Yeah.
And my favorite derby and the one I've competed. So I've competed in the Orange County Fair. I won there in 2002. I still have the mug and the trophy, which sitting in the corner somewhere. but I've done Chino, and Chino's great because there's no fair, there's no sideshow.
It's just people come for the Derby.
It is the Derby.
It is the Derby.
It sells out every year.
Really?
And it's just insane. Yeah, going quote backstage to look at the cars being prepped and all of the torches and saws and wrenches and air tools going on is so much fun.
That sounds like a ton of fun.
I didn't even know they had one in Chino. I drive past Chino every single day on my way to work. So
Yeah.
got to look into that. When do they usually have that?
The Chino Challenge is mid-July, and then
Chino Challenge.
Yes, it's called the Chino Challenge.
Okay.
And then the Orange County Fair. Just look at the website. It's in August, I believe. Yeah.
All right, might have to do an episode about the Chino Challenge. Should we build a car?
Maybe. Well, we have a couple.
I know nothing. I would have to get a lot of information from you, Derek.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I should have saved the Fifth Avenue. What was I thinking?
Well, missed
Yeah.
opportunity.
The M bodies.
Too small, right?
I take that back.
Okay.
One year I saw a Dodge Aspen go up against, it was a Dodge Aspen wagon go up against an Eldorado. And it really wasn't a fair fight.
Okay.
If you're going to get a car, if you want a guaranteed good time,
Yep.
I would say a 67 to 78 Eldorado, because you've got a big block engine up to 500 cubic inches.
Yeah.
And it's front wheel drive. So
Yeah, I
you
forget
could
about that.
be hit in the back up to the driver's seat,
Yes. You just be like pulling the
you
half
are
the back of the car is just gone.
pulling yourself
Yeah.
around. And I've
Yeah.
seen it happen all the time.
Wow.
And those cars are just indestructible. The other great ones are the 70s C bodies, primarily the Caprice
Okay.
coupes and sedans, and the wagons. I would say wagon, coupe, sedan, maybe in that order.
Okay.
And when you see them get hit, it's
Like nothing happened.
astonishing. Yeah, it's astonishing how well they hold up.
Wow. Demolition Derby. So your first foray into autosport, and would you say that is kind of the longest running motorsports experience that you have is for derbies, or have there been other
I would
things?
say that is the most prolific.
Yeah.
And it taught me a lot of lessons, because once I started getting into amateur racing,
Okay.
a lot of the rules still applied.
Like
you know,
what? I'm kind of trying to figure out where's the connection.
So
there?
here's the thing about motorsports, is that there are so many variables that you can really never take into account.
Mhm.
You could get out there and something could fail that you overlooked. I was in or inspection. You could have a race inspector say this doesn't pass muster and send you back to the paddock. When I was doing demolition derbies, I thought, oh man, I can't wait to start racing, because I'll have a lot more enjoyment. Because a demolition derby could be a minute, or it could be 45 minutes.
Sure.
It all depends on skill, the car build, luck, timing, angle of impact. If you get hit wrong, say your fender crushes into your wheel, you can't get around.
Yeah.
I've seen drive shafts just fall off and cars pogo through the air.
Oh boy.
I've seen cars just get stuck on other cars' bumpers that have fallen off. So there are a lot of variables, and so a lot of that carries over into racing, because you could go out there and you could have cleanest laps, and then an incident happens in front of you and just sidelines you.
Yeah.
And you're done.
Yep.
You're absolutely done. And that carries through whether or not you're doing amateur racing at Buttonwillow or you're in F1. I mean, if you've seen the F1 doc on Netflix, just watching how they can go out for qualifying and total the car.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So yeah, demolition derbies, you could go out there with the best of intentions, and one hit just hits your radiator and you're out.
All it takes.
Yep. Yeah, one of my best Spec Miata races, I think I was like fifth, which was the best I'd ever done it to that point.
Bravo.
And I ran over, somehow, there was a brake rotor on the track. I ran over that and busted my wheel. So yeah, and then I was done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like something like that. You think like, why is there a brake rotor?
That's a frightening thing to see on a racetrack.
I want to know what happened to the
floating around.
car.
Yeah. How is he still going?
Yeah.
Where's the rest of the car?
Exactly. He doesn't need to slow down.
No.
Fine. Yeah, man. So what other? I mean, we've had an episode where we talked about motorsports. You've done autocrossing. I've done lemons, and and so are there other things that you've gotten into or you want to get into?
Oh yeah.
Have you done wheel to wheel racing or track days and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah. I around the same time, 2014. I guess that was the year of doing.
Okay.
I got into amateur racing. I've been doing track days for years, and then I started instructing for the Audi Club.
Okay.
And I met another guy at the Audi Club who said, "Hey, I'm building this car. Do you want to go racing?" I said, "Not knowing any better." I was like, "Okay."
Who would ever say no to that?
Yeah. Well, somebody with a lot of money, and so we started racing. I had already had a leg up because of my instructing. So getting a racing license through NASA was pretty straightforward. I could skip a lot of the levels and just go straight to getting a race license. And we didn't have the fastest car. We had an Audi A4 with a 2.8 liter, 190 horsepower engine. And if that car had 30 more horsepower, it would have been competitive in GTS, the German touring series. But as it was, we were all the way in back all the time.
Okay.
And the thing about amateur racing, I think the thing about any hobby, the difference between a hobby and a career is in which way the money flows.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If you are a race car driver and you are sponsored and you're out there with Cadillac or Acura or Audi or Porsche, they're giving you money. They're paying you, and then you win, and then you get paid even more. And something with amateur racing is that you pay a lot of money to go out there and come in
potentially
first.
Run last or first. Yeah.
Or first.
Yep.
And honestly, it's the same with the exception of a plastic trophy or a mug. And that's what you win.
Yes.
And you go home and you realize that you've left $2,000 at the track in the form of tires and brake pads and gas, convincing your friends to go out there for a few bucks.
Yeah.
Towing the car, storing the car.
Yep.
It adds up.
Oh yeah. I after I was done with Spec Miata, right towards the end, I did actually run the numbers. I don't remember now because I think I fainted.
Oh, I need to hear this.
But I did run I don't actually remember the figure because I blocked it out of my mind.
Yeah.
But
trauma will do that too.
Sure, but it was one of those things where it would have been far cheaper for me to arrive and drive every event.
I was going to say it would be far cheaper for you to just burn that money.
Yeah, but it's like thinking about okay, I bought a tow vehicle, I had a trailer, I had my Spec Miata, I had all these parts, I had tools, and I could have just driven to the track, have somebody bring a car to me and fix the car and everything, and I could have been far cheaper doing that than running it all myself. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hindsight is wonderful because it provides you with all the experiences afterwards, all the opportunities afterwards. And once I discovered rally racing, I thought, oh man, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
Demolition derbies as you slide across mud and learn how to Scandi flick so you don't bash your hood into somebody, you bash your trunk into somebody,
Sure.
And learning just how much slide is going to get you into another car. I'm not going to say there's much parity between the two, but I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to slide on dirt. I want to slide on ice and be on the edge of adhesion all the time. That's what I would love to do.
Yeah.
And so I've taken a couple of ice driving courses.
Okay.
And I would love to do dirt fish or Team O'Neill. But man, again, I did a stunt driving school up at Willow Springs a couple of years ago, and that was like $3,000.
Yeah.
And then you look at dirt fish, and that's another $3,000. And then you go to Team O'Neill, another $3,000 on top of the $1,000 plane ticket that's going to take you there, and the hotel rooms and all of that stuff. And so all of these aren't for the faint of heart when it comes to to shelling out the money. And so,
yeah, you'd have to really plan for that and make sure that this is something that you maybe kind of want to try to do after you do the school.
And one course is not going to make you a rally driver.
Right.
Exactly.
You do a 2-day course and you're like,
okay,
oh crap.
that's like dipping your toe into this. Like, oh crap, now I have to spend a ton more money.
I now kind of see the potential in what I have to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to take, I mean, that's something that just seat time is the only way to learn.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Racing is expensive. We talked about that before too.
We did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah.
The main takeaway I have from all of this talk is that it seems to be so much cheaper just to do one of those arrive and drive programs. You get your whatever licensing you need and then just do that. So that's
it wasn't cheap. Well, like at least for
well, I mean, not necessarily cheap, but in terms of
still,
like you're not going to have the race car sitting at your house and your tow vehicle and your everything.
I will say that for sure. If you wanted to do like 24 hours of lemons or something, even that one of the cheapest forms of racing. You might be better off if you want to just get into it to pay a team $800 or $1,000 and run for the weekend, as opposed to
and I think there's even some grassroots rallying. Like there used to be like SCCA used to run the Club Rally series that used to be around here, and they used to run the name of that, the Rim of the World Rally. They stopped that in I think 2004, but I got to go to that one year. One of my friends had built a car and seeing all that, and it was mind-blowingly epic because it was the first time I'd ever been to a rally and seeing, there was the factory Mitsubishi team at the time and Subaru team at the time next to my friend's Toyota Starlet that he had built into a rally car, great. Which was awesome. But it was like,
I wish there were more series like that where you had professionals or semi-pros alongside amateurs.
It was totally mixed up. Like the full-on thing, it looked like well, at least part of the paddock looked like a WRC stage with like the big Mitsubishi and Subaru, the trucks, the big semis, and then my buddy's Ford F-150 next to his Starlet, or whatever the truck it was.
I mean, that's the great thing about grassroots stuff. Like you go to a NASA event and you do see professionals. I mean, I went to the 25 Hours of Thunderhill this year, and you see like Flying Lizard Motorsports with, I would say, millions of dollars of equipment and support, and they're running a Audi R8, and then you've got this dude with his friends who entered a '90s Civic, and it made it the entire 25 hours. Yeah, and there's room for them both. Yep. and it is so much fun, and it is such a blast to go to these events. And I think you just have to mentally prepare yourself for the reality that you're not going to get much out of it. If you're not, groomed at a young age, then, if you come to this realization later in life, like I did, there's only so much lost time that you can make up for.
Sure.
And at some point, you just kind of have to admit to yourself that this is something that I want to do, and it's going to cost me a whole lot of money without much in return. And to go along with what Ethan was saying, there is something for the arrive and drive kind of thing, but at the same time, and this holds true of the demolition derbies too, there is something so satisfying about building your own car and having ownership in that, not only in the car itself, but in the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it.
Yep.
And it's like anything else. It can be gratifying. It can be extremely frustrating. And you're going to get both.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I was just sort of thinking about like, I guess it sort of what you get out of it really depends on what your aspirations and goals are for, if you had dreams of being, a race car driver when you were young, it's far too late for that at our age.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, I think that's, I've talked about this before, but it's one of the reasons why I like lemons so much, 24 Hours of Lemons, is that you can get such a cool experience out of it. And it's not about, okay, well, I'm going to try to move my way up this rank and find sponsors. It's like, that's not going to happen. It's more about just having a great time.
I'm going to take this 735i covered in indoor-outdoor grass,
Yes.
and I'm going to compete next to a Ford Taurus show with a big skunk tail on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And we're
That
just
car
gonna,
never lasts very long. That one always explodes.
Have we had this conversation?
No.
Oh boy.
We've raced against them a few times, and I
Yeah.
believe their car always explodes.
Yeah,
Isn't that with all shows though? At Lemons, isn't that a thing?
Wait, this
like
is
no
the V8
shows
one,
ever-
though, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the
Oh,
later one with the round headlights.
Yeah.
The Bubble Taurus.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We might have been at the same event.
Okay.
Yeah. At Buttonwillow.
What were you driving?
I was in that show.
Oh, you
I
were?
bought
Oh.
a seat.
Oh, okay.
I bought a
It was
seat.
it Buttonwillow what year? 2015?
Yeah.
Okay, that was our first race before it was called Liam Nissan. We had our car there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we were at the same race. That's funny.
Yay.
Yep. And you drove how long? 0 hours?
0 hours.
Zero laps.
And this goes back to what I was saying. I thought, oh hey, I'm gonna save a lot of time and a lot of frustration and just buy a seat
Ah, yeah.
and just show up.
Yep.
And I get there and it's practice runs, and one of the teammates takes the Taurus out around and pulls in, and it turns out that having a 235 horsepower V8 connected to a 4-speed automatic transversely, an automatic that was designed for a 150 horsepower V6 is
Mhm.
not the best combination.
No.
And so
You don't say.
inadequate cooling, and the torque converter seal just fried. So the guy who owned the Taurus, and little did I know that this Taurus had already gained a reputation for being a total piece of shit.
I never liked being behind it because it was always like smoking, like spilling oil and spewing oil in.
That, my friend, was transmission fluid.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Now
I have
know.
a great shot by Nick Pond of me coming over Phil Hill and just smoke coming out of the skunk tail. It really lived up to its name.
Nice.
Yeah. So the guy who owned it, who I guess taught auto shop,
Okay.
thought, hey, why don't we just take the engine out and take the transmission off, pull the torque converter seal, and put in a new one? How hard
Okay.
could it be, right?
All right.
So we took 6 jacks to jack up the front of the car, lowered the engine down from the subframe, or on the subframe,
Yep.
and took apart the transmission, took out the torque converter, which was actually the easiest part of the whole thing,
Okay.
and then lowered the car back onto the engine and put it all together, just in time for us to go to sleep at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then, so 8 o'clock started, and the teammate who had driven the car before took it out again, brought it in 20 minutes later. It was my turn, and I went out, and I was just getting the hang of the car, and I got black flagged, or I got
Oh.
meatballed.
Yeah.
And it turned out that when he brought it in to sit, the torque converter seal fried again.
Oh man.
And so by the time I got out there, it just started spewing transmission fluid
Everywhere. Just
everywhere.
all
yeah.
over.
All
the
over
track.
Ethan's car.
Yeah.
All
I know.
over Ethan's car.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. That's fine. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you paid a lot of money to fix a torque converter.
I paid $1,200 to show up and stay up until 4 a.m. and then just drive home.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my friend Jesse did that too at Sonoma. He flew down from Seattle
Mm-hmm.
to drive the same Taurus,
Okay.
which never went
Did it-
around the track once.
Oh.
And so Jesse
Man.
spent, a plane ticket to go down, hotel rooms, showed up,
Yep.
laid out probably $1,500. Went home.
Wow.
Man.
It's one of those things where you got to take a gamble on it because, there could be a time when, we'll say the Taurus was running and you go out there and have a great experience. You finish the race and then
Mhm.
hell yeah, it's worth that money that you put
Oh,
down
yeah.
in the seat time and, just the memories that'll live on forever in
But
your
not
head.
in a Taurus, a V8 Taurus.
But apparently,
SHO.
so the rule of thumb is
Never a Taurus.
don't buy a seat in a Taurus.
Do not
Sorry,
buy a
sure.
seat in a Taurus SHO.
SHO. I wonder if the regular
V8.
one would be any better.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to find out.
Yeah. The cursed.
Yeah.
The cursed.
Or are you ever gonna buy a seat again? Or are you kind of like, I think maybe.
It kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
and the amateur racing just got took its toll after a while because unless you have that discretionary income to kind of just do it, you realize after a while, especially if you're just kind of stuck in that middle ground, that there are much better ways to spend that money.
Okay. Yeah.
I could see that happening. A good friend of mine just recently got rid of he had a Miata he built for Super Miata. I'm not sure exactly what series it was, but he was doing that. It was basically kind of some time attack type of stuff, but you just get to a point with it where it's like, well, I'm just putting money into this car and it's not really getting me anywhere, but draining my bank account. So, but yeah, it's kind of that same thing. You reach that plateau. So even then, I guess the best way to think about it would be if you want to have the experience, try it at least once. You got to at least take the chance. Maybe not in a Taurus for a 24 hours of lemon race, but maybe, do your research or, just hope to get a little lucky with a lemons race and do that. And there you go.
Yeah. Just go into motorsports knowing that it can be fickle. And,
oh yeah, sure.
I would coach students who would get stuck behind a row of cars, and he'd be like, "Oh man, I can't wait to go racing, so I don't have to deal with this anymore." I said, "Do you know how much traffic there is in racing?"
Yeah, way more than this.
Yeah.
Especially a lemons race.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you've talked about the Taurus SHO, maybe not quite reliable. Should we segue maybe into a car that also sort of has a reputation for maybe not being quite reliable that you happen to drive here today?
Oh my God.
It's just things that you hear on the internet. Yeah. I'm not saying that I believe this, but
who put you up to this?
The internet says that the Allroad is not a reliable vehicle, but I'd like to hear your take on it. And maybe you can dispel some of these myths.
It's really hard to work on too.
Apparently,
the front bumper and the whole front of the car has to come off to like.
That's called service position.
Change the light bulb. Why do both lights have to come off?
But I know you've told me that you've had really good luck with this vehicle. So I guess maybe luck is not even the right word, because I'm sort of putting this assumption that this is not a reliable vehicle. So how do you describe this vehicle and how it's treated you?
Keep in mind, we're going to edit Wikipedia once this is done with your answers.
We're going to change your words to make it sound like
this is going to be.
So no, really, who put you up to this? You were the nicest guy in the world, and then I show up to this podcast.
Yes.
And then you drop this bomb on me.
I know.
That was me.
It was actually Paul's question.
It was my question.
I just asked that.
Did Doug DeMuro put you up to this?
No, I'm actually, I don't know Doug.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he has a thing for the, okay.
Yeah, yep.
To the listeners out there, I have a 2005 Audi Allroad, 4.2, which means it has the V8.
That changes things.
Okay, good. The story's over. No. So I'm sure most of your listeners are car savvy, and they already know that the Allroad has gained a reputation as being one of the lesser reliable cars that has ever graced this planet. It's different from like a piece of shit American car from the 80s.
Yeah.
Because those tolerances were never tighter than 10 millimeters, and Audis come from the factory and they pride themselves on 0 millimeters of tolerance. And cut to 20 years later, that Chevy Celebrity is still going to be the same rattle trap it was in 1986.
Sure.
But you have a 2001 Allroad, which came from the factory and all precise and tight and nice and gentleman. And now it's just like this flat, airbagged, code throwing, oil consuming money pit. My words, not yours.
All right. Yep. I didn't put those words in your mouth.
And so somewhere along the way, Allroad became synonymous with unreliable.
Sure.
And I'm sure I could say synonymous with many things. But I'll just stick with unreliable because I am one of its fervent supporters.
Sure.
And I've had 9 Audis, I guess.
Really?
And I had 2 90s, and then I had 2 A6 2.7T sticks, and then I got an Allroad 4.2, and I was like, holy shit, this is the car. Yeah. This is awesome. I'm just one for being able to do everything with a car. I would describe myself as more function over form.
Okay.
I love it when they intersect perfectly because I think one informs the other. But I'm not one that's drawn in by the promise of a car. I'm one that's drawn in by the application of a car.
Sure.
So
Yep.
you've got this Allroad, which has an air suspension that has 4 different levels from road to off-road.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes from like 5.5 inches to 8 inches of ground clearance,
Wow.
give or take.
Yeah.
And so I thought, yeah, this is the car. And I would go off-roading with it. I've done ice driving with it. I've towed that race car all over creation with it. And it's just been great. And so I put 90,000 miles on the first Allroad. And then I thought, God, what am I going to get? Because this is just great. I'm not an SUV guy.
Sure.
And so I get another one. I find this Allroad in Pennsylvania.
Slippery Rock?
It was not.
No.
There's this car broker, Bruce Mendel, out there. And I found him on the Quattro World Forums, which was a great place to talk about all things Audi.
Okay.
Back in the 2000s.
Yes.
And he said, hey, I've got the Holy Grail of Allroads. It's a cobalt blue 4.2 with 18,000 miles on it. And this was in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So it lived its life in either Philadelphia or in Manhattan or something like that, where it just didn't go out. And so I had it flatbedded to Los Angeles, and that's been my daily driver ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's now got 130,000 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, here's the thing. An Allroad, I would say, is like the German Land Rover. It's got the same capability.
Mm-hmm.
The Allroad is the only car-based vehicle to have ever conquered the Land Rover course.
Yep.
But it also has a Land Rover's reliability, which means, it has an air suspension. You've got compressed rubber bags holding up 4,200 pounds. Of course they're going to break.
Yep.
Of course they're going to blow. So you get the R0 replacement bags, which have a lifetime warranty. The rear bags are still original at 130,000.
Okay.
And that's after towing for half of its life, I would say. The engine and transmission are original. And, so I don't know if you know about the 4.2, but it has a timing chain instead of a timing belt.
Mm-hmm.
And that timing chain is on the back of the car.
Yeah.
Which means, and that timing chain has nylon guides. So
it's a nice, strong material. Nylon.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. So eventually it is written in nylon that that timing chain is going to have to be replaced, along with the tensioner and everything. And to do that, sir, you have to go into that service position.
Service position.
Service position.
Bend over, please.
Pull the engine, take out all of the stuff. And I would say the parts cost about $3,000.
Okay.
The whole service is probably like $6,000 to $8,000 once you factor in labor. Having said that, this car is something that I love and adore.
So you will do that when the time comes?
It is. So it's 15 years old at this point. And I still love it.
Yeah.
I look back at it. I wash and wax and polish it. And at the same time, I still tow with it. I still go off-road with it. I was just in Gorman with a G-Wagon and a couple of XJs and a Trailhawk just a few weeks ago. I'm not easy on this car. I use it, and I think it appreciates that.
Sure. Yeah.
So would I do that service? I don't know. There's still nothing out there that I would get to replace it. Audi, there are rumors that Audi is going to bring back the big Allroad with the air suspension for 2020. So my fingers are crossed.
Okay.
Oh, that it kind of does debunk the myth, because I heard about this thing being a problem back when I was cutting my teeth as an auto parts guy in 2005, 2006, but it was mostly the 2.7 T engine that I was hearing the issues about. I didn't even know these things had the 4.2 in them.
Yeah, there's only like 550 of them. In the States.
But props to you for sticking with it and stuff. And that's the thing is, a car could be known as an unreliable car, but if you treat it well and you believe in it, because again, we think, cars have souls. You believe in the car.
Yeah.
It'll treat you well. I mean, 15 years, 130,000 miles on it, or you said it had 18 on it. So, whatever the easy math that I can't do in my head is, but
plus 1,000 miles
Yeah.
of hard miles
driving
too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, towing a car to Utah, to Miller Motorsports, or up to Shelton, Washington, those aren't easy miles.
And that's the thing too that gets muddy with the internet nowadays is that cars will get a reputation.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
and very quickly, and you don't hear the story. You don't hear Derek Powell's story about his all-road. You hear
Now you do.
now
Yes.
you do, but you hear these horror stories about service position. But it's not all bad. There is good to it, and I
There
mean this
is
car
good.
sounds like it does everything. It's got the power, right? Because you got the 4.2
Yeah.
V8. You can go anywhere you want basically with this thing. It conquered the Land Rover course, like you said.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of almost like, again, I don't want to say it's like a total one car solution, but it can do almost anything.
It's pretty damn cool. And the 2.7 Ts came with a stick, and my friend Nick has one, and we met on Quattro World back in 2008, and we are best friends now, actual best friends. He's had his since 2003, and he just sold it yesterday.
Whoa.
And
You're no longer his best friend.
No, no.
You broke up with him via text.
Yeah. He's getting in the Golf R, so he's okay.
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 But I have to say that his car was more in line with what you were expecting from an all-roads reliability. After Malaise days last year, my all-road had been rear-ended, and so was in the body shop. And Nick was living in Amsterdam at the time, and he said, "Oh, well, just go to my place in Venice, and you can borrow the all-road. Her name is Gertie. You can borrow Dirty Gertie until you get your cars back."
Name.
So I get Dirty Gertie, and I'm driving across town, and at Crenshaw and Venice, the coolant temp light comes on, and it has a little T-junction underneath by the reservoir, and that thing had just disintegrated.
Okay.
So it just, I was stranded, and I had to go to AutoZone and get something and limp it home. So I got that fixed, and then a couple weeks later, the headlight ballast went, and so I only had one headlight.
Sure.
Cue the Wallflower song, and that thing just always something was happening.
All
to it.
right. Yeah.
So
Okay. So that's where the reputation comes from.
that's where the
Dirty
reputation
Gertie.
comes from. But I
Yeah.
say, get an all-road V8. Know that one day that timing chain is going to self-destruct. But in the meantime, holy wow, that car is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that.
Yeah,
It's good
it
to
is.
hear
I
that.
mean, I'd figure if you're good enough with a wrench, I mean, it's a big task to take out an engine out of a car, especially if you're like a home mechanic and you don't necessarily have the right facility to do it. But if you love the car enough, take it out yourself, do the work yourself, and probably save yourself the money. Get a good manual and
You make it sound so simple.
Oh yeah, it's easy. It's like on those TV shows, like Wheeler Dealers and stuff. Oh, they just did a 996, and like, oh, we're gonna just do the IMS bearing on it. It just
Easy.
easy. Just take the transmission out real quick.
They're actually a transmission on a Cayman is super easy to do. You can do one in half a day. The all-road V8, taking it apart. Oh man, that's testing my limits there.
Yeah, but at least you'd have a nice sense of accomplishment once it was all done. Like this is my main conquering thing as a human being. I removed the engine from
That would be on my bio and my headstone.
Yes.
Change the timing chain on my 4.2 by my damn self.
Yep.
That's how it would work.
Nice.
Oh wow. I kind of want an all-road now. That kind of sounds awesome. That's kind of like what I wanted my Outback to be, but it totally was not.
It's. I will tell you
anywhere
this. So I've taken. There's a woman, Emmy Hall. She's an editor at CNET Roadshow, and she's competed in the Rebel Rally, which is an all-female road rally.
Oh yeah.
And
What about
she grew up like with VW things and dune buggies and lived in Colorado. I mean, she is the real deal when it comes to all road or off road stuff. And we're at Gorman last year, and she had brought a Cherokee, I think, a Grand Cherokee Trailhawk,
Mm-hmm.
and there was again there was a G550 4x4 squared there, and a Chevy Colorado ZR2.
Mm-hmm.
So
serious off-road hardware?
pretty hardware, pretty serious stuff. And she got us a ride in the all road, and I went everywhere that those vehicles did. And Emmy is she doesn't lie to you. You know, she's very honest, and she says what's on her mind.
Sure.
And she was astonished at what the all road could do. So getting praise and admiration for her meant a lot.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anytime you want to go off road, down with it.
All right. That works.
I wish I still had my gambler car.
Right?
It's I would totally join you, and you'd be like far ahead of me, like, oh, I'm overheating again.
No, it's
Ethan and I are going to be looking for all roads after we wrap this one.
Yes.
We're going to both be on there like,
all road 4.2.
4.2.
4.2. Yeah,
4.2, yeah.
2.7. Then that's the thing with the 2.7 is it's so, endearing. Oh, the 2.7 twin turbo. You hear that and you're like,
Yeah.
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
back in the day. It was great in the S4. It was great in my A6. You add 500 pounds on the all road, and it becomes ponderous.
Mm.
Especially with that stick shift. That 6-speed has never been a great transmission. That 1.2 is just, you have to just kind of baby it. You can't rush it. And 2 to 3 is like 2 different time zones. So I love driving the stick shift car. I will never not have a stick in my lineup. But the 4.2 combo with the automatic is just it's a hoot.
And that's the same. So that 4.2 engine, is that the same one that transitioned itself down into like, the R8 and stuff? Same basic engine, or?
I would say in the same family.
The same family, okay.
It was the first Audi 4.2 had a timing belt, and that was in front, and it was a rather large lump of an engine. And so when it went into the A6 and the S6, and then twin turboed in the RS6, they had to widen the fenders. They had to widen the front to get it in there. And the 4.2 that's in the all-road is known as the Ketten V8, and that's the one with the timing chain in the back, and it's a lot more compact. And that's what allowed it to go into the B6 S4.
Okay.
So it shares the engine with the S4, and it made 340 horsepower in the S4, 300 in the all-road, and that engine kind of morphed into the direct injected version, which is what you'll find in the RS4 and the R8.
Okay.
So mine does not have direct injection, which also means that I don't have to blast it with walnuts.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Well, cool. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like almost the genesis of the engine. Like, oh, it starts here, and then now it's an R8. It's in the R8. It's in the fast one. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm thoroughly impressed. I really hope we debunked some myths on the car. So if anybody out there's listening that thinks that they're horrible, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, the 4.2.
Just get the 4.2. Just don't get the 2.7. There's only 550 of them?
I would say in 2005, I would say about 550 came out.
Okay.
And then there's a couple hundred in 2004 as well.
Okay. So they only ran it for
2 years.
2 years. Oh wow. So that's a pretty rare car right there. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Good luck. Get on that BRZO search and try to find one of those things that set it up for that. So, well, cool. So, and speaking of off-road things, we have another thing I'm going to ask you here. So, you've done your fair share of off-roading.
Yes.
So, let's say you wanted to build an off-road car out of one of Ethan's fleet.
Ooh.
But you can't.
I like this
but
idea.
you can't choose the truck. That's the only thing.
That would be awful.
That would be awful, and it would probably work just fine because of that
probably
1,000,000-mile motor in it.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the only rule. Can't choose the truck.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember
Okay.
what's in the fleet.
Why don't we recap it for
Okay, yeah.
everybody listening?
Okay. Well, let's start from oldest to newest. Let's see. I've got 86 Nissan Stanza wagon.
Mm-hmm. Can we get back to that in a second?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay. What's next? The Fifth Avenue is gone. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No.
Yes. I gave you so many chances to buy it.
It was the wrong color.
I could have painted it for you. It was an awful vehicle. Then I have my 88 Chevy Nova Twin Cam, which you're familiar with.
I love that thing.
Yes, that's a good car. What's next? 1990 Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix. With the ASC McLaren, not the real McLaren, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't
Just
have
tell
two
people
seats.
it's McLaren, Ethan. It's fine.
Carbon
It's fine.
fiber tub.
There is a slight connection between that McLaren and the other McLaren.
Sure.
But you know, we won't get into that here. 1991 Geoprism GSI, also a new me car like my twin cam.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what else I have. It's mostly garbage. That's it. And I've got an E46 and I got that 740 IL, which are both of those are going away soon. So
We're going to include the Scion too. Don't forget.
and the Scion, I got 2005 Scion XBA. That's one of the two cars.
Brett Van.
One of the two cars I bought new, and then I have a Prius, so we can leave that one out as well.
I would not admit that.
It's going away soon, so it's my wife's car. That's my excuse.
So
All terrible vehicles, mostly.
well, and I think that's why we bonded initially. Because your I hesitate to say taste level because that seems kind of oxymoronic.
Sure.
But the eye you have for these oddballs is quite exquisite.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It's not just a
Thank you very
Chevy
much.
Nova; it's the Nova Twin Cam,
Yeah,
which was 1 year only.
1 year only. You're right.
You've got this Geoprism, but it's with the hopped up twin camera
Yes.
as well.
Yep.
You have a W body, a GM10, but not just a Buick Regal or a Cutlass Supreme or a Chevy Lumina, of which
Nope.
there are hundreds left. You've got a Turbo Grand Prix.
Yes.
And then okay, I need to talk about this stanza for a second. So
Yes.
So
Be nice. This one's my favorite one.
the Nissan is your favorite. So for those unfamiliar with this car, I implore you to go look up the Nissan Stanza wagon right now, and search for a picture of it with its sliding doors open, because there is no B-pillar to speak of.
Safe car.
It is
It's perfectly safe.
Mhm.
certainly not a safe car. I need to see one of these in a crash test, because all I can think of is like a 58 Impala where the entire structure just disintegrates.
Yeah.
I'm not an engineer, and I'm sure that the Nissan engineers have put together a fine automobile.
Sure.
I cannot comprehend in my head how that car would fare in a front end collision or a side collision.
Oh yeah, the side
or,
collision.
or a rollover
Yeah. Or any fender
or an
bender.
offset.
Yes. Yeah.
How did this thing happen?
I have no idea. And I wish I could figure out. Somebody told me about this, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if I have heard that if you put this thing on a lift with all of the doors open, you can actually, like, you wouldn't be able to shut the doors because there's enough flex in the body that the doors won't shut properly. I've heard that.
Oh my
I'm not sure if
God.
that's true, and I don't know if there's anybody out there that can confirm that that's true or not, but I believe it.
I mean, the listeners cannot see how wide my eyes are right now. This is terrifying.
Yeah, and
It's a family vehicle too.
well, the commercials back in the day, they showed it loading up the car with, because you could get with optional jump seats in the back, so you could seat seven. In
Perhaps
this
the
thing.
weight creates a ballast that increases
maybe
the structural integrity.
Maybe it just splits in half, so the people in the front and the people in the back. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really sure exactly how it
I mean,
works
there's
out.
only one way to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I know you love this car, Paul, but I feel like I need to talk to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and have them crash test this car. I think this car is actually not running at the moment, so that could be a.
Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be funny, because I'd be hazarded to guess that Nissan destroyed all the crash test footage and results.
Oh man.
I need to track one
Well,
of these
I mean, if
down.
you look, there's cars that have B pillars that you look at like the Chevy Astro crash.
Oh
test
my
from-
God, the Astro crash.
Remember
test
that
is
one?
Amazing. Yeah.
Yes. I remember seeing that and I'm like, okay, I'm never buying an Astro.
I'd almost rather drive a Vanagon.
Yes.
You know?
Oh yeah.
At least you know that your legs are going to just slice off like instantly.
Sure.
And you will be, you will heal as, you know, an amputee or perhaps a paraplegic, but it would be a clean cut.
But like in an Astro, the steering wheel will be infused into your lungs.
You become one with the Astro.
Yes.
Yeah. To go back to your question about which, I don't want to depress everybody too much. To go back to your question, I would say hands down the Grand Prix.
Nice.
I think if I'm going to do a safari car of any of your cars, it's going to be the Grand Prix because GM exhaust note of that era, the 60-degree GM from the 2.8, 3.1, 3.5, 3.9, like they all share the same architecture. It's why you can put a 3.9 in a Fiero and it just drops in. And in Slippery Rock, we had one car dealership and it was a Chevy Oldsmobile dealership. So to this day, I can identify a 2.8 from miles away.
Okay.
So, and to go back on how loose the tolerances were, that those exhausts, there was always a cracked manifold, or
you can hear
like
the bolts rattling around.
You can hear the bolts rattling, and that catalytic converter smelled like eggs. A week after you bought it, brand new. That exhaust was not tight, and GM had tuned it to have this guttural sound,
kind of gurgly, yeah.
And it was it's not refined at all. And at the same time, it is absolutely the goddamn heartbeat of America. So we have the benefit of a slightly punched out 2.8. It's now a 3.1. Is that correct? It's a turbo.
Yes.
Which means I'm sensing a bit of dentist drill drama going on. That manifold's not going to be tight, so it's got a little Previa whistle going on.
Yeah.
We're going to lift this
every
guy.
Every Previa you hear does that.
Every Previa you hear.
That's true.
So we're going to lift this guy.
Yes.
We're going to chop the exhaust. Because people need to hear this V6. We need to hear that turbo whistle. It's a Garrett turbo?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's just something about this lazy spooling. Because it added what, 40 horsepower?
Well, it's 205, so whatever
okay. So it was 140 initially and then 160 later. So I would say let's split the difference. You had 50.
I mean, it's not 205 today. I mean, it's like the turbo barely does anything.
It will when we cut the catalytic converter off.
There you go.
And I like this juxtaposition of a rough and tumble outside with the myriad buttons and electronics that Pontiac festooned these cars with inside.
Yeah.
You have the bane of my existence. It's one of my most hated car features ever. Door-mounted seatbelts, because GM was
also not safe.
Also not safe. You get T-boned and the door opens and you fall out.
Yep.
And it's ugly.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
and
it's
kind
so
of annoying
ugly
to get in and out of.
It's awful. Did you know the belts were supposed to? So the way GM skirted this issue, and Honda was guilty of it too, as was Nissan with their Sentra. By mounting the door, the belts to the door, technically you could keep them buckled with the door open.
Yes. Yeah.
And
my Geo's like
so
that too.
it became a passive restraint because you didn't have to actively buckle them. So it's got these door-mounted seatbelts. It's got door handles that are on next to the B pillar, right?
Yeah,
they pull down like a beer tap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and is it red? Is it maroon?
It's black.
Oh, it's black.
Yep.
I was gonna say if it was maroon, it would have those matching maroon wheels.
Yeah, they only made it in red and black. The Turbo Grand Prix.
And how's the paint quality? I mean, I know how the paint quality is.
It's typical orange peel from that era GM.
But it's not like scabbing off, is it?
No, it's not bad.
Okay.
With a little buff, it'll probably look okay.
Yeah, or the clear coat's just going to come off on the
Probably.
Yeah, the random orbital.
Yeah.
But I can totally see this thing as a safari vehicle.
Okay, well, I have a question for you because this is an important one. Lifting this thing up and maybe trying to fit larger wheels and tires on this thing.
Absolutely.
Do you retain the plastic body cladding? This was sort of like
It's not a Pontiac if you don't do that.
that's true. Yeah, that is true.
I mean,
Good answer. that is the correct answer. I
Like,
just was testing you.
I mean, one word, Aztec.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but this is going to look cooler than the Aztec.
Oh yeah.
I think. Okay, look, if you want to really safari it, you keep that plastic cladding and you paint it matte gray.
So then it kind of has more of an
It
Aztec
gives that
look to it.
butch feel to it.
Yep.
And going back to our Demolition Derby conversation, it redeems the shit-tastic quality of this car and gives it a second life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of having pity on this car, you have respect.
Sure. Yeah.
So I say we start, and it's got the hood vents, right?
Yeah, functional.
And we paint those matte gray as well.
Mhm.
There we go.
I'm sensing a project.
Yeah. Well, it already is a project. I got to get the brakes working.
And see, that's the thing. I have an idea with that. What
Okay.
if we got one of those, like, I guess you call them a cow push, where we put it on the front? Then you don't need the brakes anymore because you can just kind of lightly tap into trees
Sure.
and you don't need to use the brakes.
Yeah. I
Then-
mean, the brakes work.
well,
Yeah.
well, how well do they work though?
You press them really hard and they'll
Really
work.
hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. You don't
Yeah.
need that. I mean, you don't need that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good workout.
Yeah.
All right. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think since the car has just been sitting for a while, this is probably a good the car. The problem with this car is like it's rare. It's one of those cars.
It is.
All of the cars I have are rare, but nobody gives a shit about them. Essentially.
Again, why we bonded.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think they maybe made 3,000 of these. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't have good. I can't really figure that one out.
They were hella expensive, and
Yes.
they ran hot.
Yes, and every single one that I've seen does not have more than 70,000 miles. The ABS system all seem to fail right at 70,000 miles. Mine had 69,999 when I bought it.
Was it the same ABS system that was like on the Imperial? That is impossible to.
It's a Teves 2 system.
Yep.
And you can, I know that Peugeot's had them as well. I think the 505 had it. Exactly. Some Lotuses had it. I think maybe even the Pontiac 6000, a few other vehicles had it.
The STE had it.
I think so. But you can kind of like, some Jags had them too. You can kind of kludge together a system. Like you can find like an accumulator ball from a Jaguar that kind of fits. But I haven't done that.
Yeah, those ABS systems just pretty much just render those cars useless.
Yeah. And there's a really nice, in the San Francisco area, somebody sent me a link to a Pontiac 6000 or was it I don't remember. What was the top of the line 6000?
The
Like
STE.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And it was like $1,000. And I know why it's $1,000. I really wanted it. It has 70,000 miles on it. Looks wonderful,
At
but I'm not gonna buy it.
70,000 miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yep.
It's like Logan's Run, you turn 30 and then, you die.
Yes. Yep. That's the life of a Turbo Grand Prix. Nice. Well, that's a good answer. I think we have to run with that one.
Yeah. think it
I
is.
mean, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
I've got my
Okay.
Sawzall.
All right.
I think we can stuff some BF Goodrich,
My favorite thing to do is ruin cars. So, I mean, I wouldn't say this is ruined, but like, take them apart. Like, rip out the interior, whatever you want to do. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Um,
That could be a fun project.
yeah. We should probably talk about if we've seen any cool cars this week. We have a little series that we were calling Car Spotting for a little bit, and then we had changed it because Jalopnik uses that, and we don't have a good name. Maybe you're a wordsmith.
Oh boy.
You if
In
we
training.
Yeah.
we're-
Last week we called it rad shit we saw this week.
But the problem is
So-
rad. We kind of like Radwood. but
Brad's
it's-
going to come after you.
I know that's also a
true. He
trademark
will.
thing.
Yeah.
We could spell a little different with 2 D's or something, but
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or an
RADD.
umlaut or something.
yeah. So
Just the thought.
yeah. So basically, we like any cool. I have one that I saw. I don't know. You saw something pretty cool this week too. And I don't know if you in your travels.
Like
I don't know if
car encounters.
Yeah, car
Car
encounters.
encounters,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll keep workshopping that, but that's my working title
That's
here.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Car encounters.
Car
Car
encounters.
encounters. All right.
Car encounters of the.
What did you
Ooh.
see?
Well, Last week I saw a very sad Lamborghini Diablo on the back of a car hauler that looks like it was going off to the wrecking yard. Maybe not a wrecking yard, maybe a special wrecking yard for special cars or something. So it was quite sad, as I'm a decent fan of the Diablo.
Pre-facelift, right?
Yeah, I would say pre-facelift with the pop-ups.
I'm a sucker for pop-ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great looking car, and I'd be hazard to even say that I think this is, I don't know how controversial this will be. I think that the Diablo is more Radwood than the Countach.
Yeah, that's a good take. Yeah.
The car was designed in the 1980s.
That's true, because the Countach was designed in the 70s.
In the 70s, yeah. So I mean, that's my whole thing with it. And,
Okay.
and that was my poster car growing up. And hey,
Do you think it has any AMC cross-contamination?
oh, I'm sure it does.
Once Chrysler bought
Oh, wow. I didn't think of that.
Lamborghini,
Well,
yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because that is going to translate into this week's
Oh, okay.
whatever
Car
word.
Encounters?
Car encounter.
Car
Oh,
Encounters.
yes.
Yes.
Continue.
I ran into another Diablo.
What?
Another
Really?
Diablo. Yes.
Wow.
Very short drive from my parents' house to my house, taking my kids home, and I saw one coming up behind me. It was a white one, pre-facelift, so pop-up headlights, and I got pretty excited about it because it's not every day you see one of those things rolling around. So immediately I was like, "Oh, we're gonna roll down the windows." And my two daughters, I have one who's nearly 6 and one who's nearly 2,
Mhm.
and so the two, nearly 2-year-old, she didn't know what was going on, but my my oldest, I was like, "Okay, we're gonna roll the windows down. We got to hear this car. It's really, really cool."
Oh, no.
And so it comes up and it ends up right next to us at a stoplight. And I don't want to say it was in bad shape, but it was in bad shape.
Oh, no.
I was kind of appalled because it was really dirty. You never see a dirty Lamborghini. So I thought maybe it was just being used. But the other thing that very quickly, I guess you can say, intoxicated us was the fumes from the car.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know. Maybe the
Literally
catalytic
intoxicated,
converters
yeah.
had been
Stolen.
or removed, or just maybe some of that AMC,
Reappropriated.
yeah, AMC magic
Melted down.
had taken the bolts loose on it or something, or maybe it was even an at-home installation of some aftermarket headers. Who knows? So it stunk really, really bad, and my daughter said it smells like a stinky pig, and I was like, it does kind of smell like a stinky pig because it stunk. So it was kind of sad, but I was like, okay, rolling the windows up and the smell's still in the car, and the light turns green and it takes off, and it sounds amazing, even though it probably had
Something
some
is
sort
seriously
of
wrong with
something was wrong with it. And so I then get behind it, and then we're stopped at the next stoplight, and I'm looking at this car, and I'm like, I noticed it was dirty at the first stoplight, and now at the second stoplight, the little grill that's between the two taillights on this thing is so deformed. I don't know if it was made of a plastic or a fiberglass or what, but it's so deformed. I don't know if it was from the heat from the engine and the exhaust, but it looked so bad. But that wasn't it. The taillights on this thing, it's got, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but we have two red circles on each side, and they're like inside of a trapezoid. I don't know my shapes. It's been a long time since kindergarten. But those are supposed to be all red. These were so faded and almost to the point where they were like yellowed out.
Were they like Lexus GS?
I was just going to say that.
Exactly. Like a GS. And I was just like, huh, would you look at that? And of course, the underneath where the 4 exhaust tips are coming out, it was a white car, like I said, but it was all black under there from all the exhaust coming up on it. It was a total trip, but I still, this happened early last week, and I was talking about it with my daughter just today, and she goes, "Yeah, that car, it smelled like a stinky pig." And I was like, "It did, but wasn't it cool?" No. It stunk. So
That is
I
a
didn't get her.
depressing car encounter.
Yeah.
That's two depressing.
I know.
Two
Your
depressing
Diablo
Lamborghinis.
experiences
Yeah.
are...
Double Diablo.
Yeah.
Double Diablo. Ooh, that sounds like the name of something. I don't know.
Some weird car video game.
Ooh,
Yeah.
there we go.
I was going to say beer.
Or for the
Oh,
beer.
yeah, there you
For
go.
beer. Double. Dos Diablos. We'll
So,
call it
Diablos.
So my, what are we calling this again?
Dos Diablos.
Yeah. My Dos Diablos. I didn't see a Diablo. I saw. So what I saw this week was in perfect, impeccable condition. There was old guy with no hair driving it. He was driving it so slowly. So I'm gonna give you some hints, and hopefully you can kind of figure out what this is. It's based on the Chrysler J platform.
Ooh.
So it's a K car derivative.
Mm.
It was
narrows it down to 2 cars.
Yeah. So yeah, you might already kind of figured it out. Early to mid 90s had retractable headlights, and then the later models had
Pop-ups or
like a
flush mounted.
Yes, exactly. In Mexico, it was marketed as the Chrysler Phantom.
Oh, I already know this.
Okay, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And actually, this is another fact that I didn't know. Several ARCA teams. I just looked at Wikipedia before the show. I didn't really know any of this crap.
I think 92 was the last year for the hideaways.
You're right. Correct. And it was replaced with the Chrysler Sebring.
I mean, this really isn't a guessing game, so
yeah, exactly.
I'm curious.
To me, it is because you're gonna have to.
Also,
you're not flushing anything out of me.
I know. So in Mexico, the Phantom was available with a hot shit turbo engine that we did not get in the States. I don't think it got the Turbo 3, but it got in 1990. It had the variable nozzle turbo.
Did not know that.
Yeah, here in the States.
Okay.
They were like, I don't know, 200 made or something like that. It was a ridiculously low number.
Okay.
Trevor Creed redesigned the interior in 1990.
So this is good that you're here. I just looked this up on Wikipedia, but you actually know this stuff. So this is perfect.
Did you read the Wikipedia page? I still don't know what car this is.
So the
this is
J
gonna be
body
great.
came out. Let me try to help you here. It came out in 1987, and it replaced. It supplanted the Chrysler Laser. The Laser went away in 1987. 86 was the last year. It was a gorgeous shape.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And
it looks better in the coupe than the convertible, I think.
Yeah,
I
it
think
looked
so.
really good. It came with a variety of engines from the 2.2 to the 2.5. Later, it was exclusively available with the Mitsubishi 3-liter. And in the after it got its facelift, it got the composite headlights and then amber turn signals, which kind of did away with the beautiful that
It looked worse.
black striping.
Yeah, it did not look
It was
as
really
good.
really bad. It had a digital dash until 1991.
And they had a sedan version of this with a car with the same name, but it was a different.
Chrysler had a car with this name across like 50 different
platforms.
I want to say
Yeah.
50 different platforms because there was one platform.
Sure,
It was
exactly.
the K car.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's any other hints I can give you.
I think I'm ready to make a guess. But
Okay.
I'm probably going to be wrong, but let's give it a shot. I want to say, was this the Dodge Daytona?
It was not.
Damn.
It was the. I think it was. I was a 1993 to 1995 Chrysler LeBaron convertible.
Okay.
Yep.
All
You
right.
remember now that you hear it, you remember. what
I
it
heard
looks
that.
like.
Well, the,
Yeah.
the whole K car thing got me a little messed up, and I was like, "Oh wait, the Daytona." And I started thinking about the turbo engines, and I was like, "It could be the Daytona."
Yeah.
But okay, so LeBaron convertible.
Yes. Yeah.
So Chrysler had the LeBaron, which started out as kind of a special K in 2-door and 4-door forms. In 1986, it was facelifted for 1 year, and the sedan continued to 1988, and then the coupe transformed from this homely little car into this gorgeous shape from 1987 to 1995. 95, I think. Was it 93 to 95? I think it was convertible only.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Yep.
And on top of that, there was also the LeBaron GTS, which went from 1985 to 1989, and that was a 4-door sedan, hatchback sedan, designed to compete with the BMW 5 Series, I guess. It was their executive saloon.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The naming for Chryslers throughout the
It's like, do you want a
Sev-
LeBaron GTS, a LeBaron GTC? Do you
Or
want a
just-
LeBaron with a vinyl roof and the digital dash based on the Dodge Spirit? Like, What
Yeah.
LeBaron do you want?
Or even the naming for the Fifth Avenue I had started off as
Oh,
a
yeah.
LeBaron. Started off as a
Yes.
LeBaron in the 70s, and they changed it to New Yorker, and then they had the New Yorker Fifth Avenue edition. It's like, okay. It was all quite confusing, and I think maybe I would like to know the history of why they made so many changes there.
I'm sure it's out there, but we need a flow chart.
Yes. Yes.
We need it.
Yes.
Well, it's kind of like following the course of the Ford Thunderbird, which in the late. So in '61, it shared its platform with the Lincoln Continental, and then the T-Bird changed to the Lincoln Mark III platform in '67, '68, and then it followed convention and went to the Mark IV and stayed big and heavy until '76, and then '77 it was downsized to the Ford LTD2 platform, which was one of the best-selling Thunderbirds ever, by the way.
Mm.
Then it moved to the Fox body platform,
Yep.
which was also the Mustang, but it was kind of like an elongated one, so it shared more with the Mark VII than it did the Mustang. Then it got its own platform in 1989 that shared with the Mercury Cougar.
Yep.
So it's like, is it going to share it with the Mustang or the Cougar or the Lincoln? Like, what is this car? It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw the brand name everywhere.
Oh yeah. I mean, Ford Thunderbird. My family had a fine collection of Ford Thunderbirds. My mom had an '88 with a V6. That was actually the car I got my driver's license in.
Nice.
It was white with maroon interior. Never forget that. And
It's fancy.
it was fancy. My father had a '91. It wasn't a Super Coupe, but did it have the V8? It may have had the V8. And I remember it was a pretty cool car. It had leather interior, and I remember it being very fast. And that was, I think, the first car I did a burnout in with my sister in the car. And I was like, watch what I can do. And it was pretty cool. And then, my aunts and my uncles, that was just like anytime there was like, a holiday or something, it was like, oh, all the Thunderbirds are here because they had, there was a '94, somebody had an older one with a 5-liter engine in it. And it was just Thunderbirds everywhere.
Yeah.
They loved the Thunderbirds. So, yes, the fine Thunderbird history of my family. So
Nice.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So we got a lot of
That's a
good.
good theme.
We got a lot of good car trivia here in this
Oh, yeah.
episode. I think it's
Sure did.
yeah.
Yeah. I can.
Okay.
When it comes to car trivia, especially post-war, I would say post-50s car trivia.
Okay.
The 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s cars. I love the facts and figures, and I could just nerd out on it all day.
Yeah. That's good. That's
the
good
best part.
stuff.
That's the glue that bonds us all, because we all have our own little niche that we know and can completely nerd out on, and it binds us all together.
Sure.
It really does.
Yeah.
I think what's neat too is that and I think what's so great about Malaise Motors is that we grew up with this stuff.
Yep.
And so it's kind of seared in our minds, all of these, especially because we love cars. So these facts and figures are just evergreen in our minds.
Sure. Yep.
And now they're kind of going through this renaissance where they're more than just used cars, at least to us. It's evocative of our childhood, of an era, of specific memories, and so when we find like-minded people, whether or not that we're on the same age group, it's like it's amazing that there's people in Malaise Motors who are in their early 20s,
Yeah.
who weren't even born
Yep.
when the last Cutlass Sierra rolled off the line. It's really cool.
That's a fun part of it for me. Like, when, especially like with the Radwood group on Facebook, I just love when a younger person comes in there and is like, wow, I've never heard of the Nissan Pulsar NX with the Sportback. And I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. This person's learning about this super cool car for the first time.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just love that. And I think one of the reasons I was so excited to come here and talk with you tonight is because of that shared love
Sure.
of these cars, and viewing them not as oddities or novelties, but something that Like what attracts you to these oddball cars that you have in your driveway right now, in addition to that Fifth Avenue?
Sure. Well, some of it is, especially cars like the Nova twin cam. I like the history. I guess I don't really know all the history, because I bet if I went to talk to somebody that worked at GM at the time, they might not even remember somebody that worked there might not even remember the twin cam. But I think part of it is a little bit of nostalgia. There's a little bit of that there that kind of wants to take me back a little bit to when I was younger, but also just having being able to experience something that not many people get to experience anymore. The cars that are still there, at least cars from the 80s and 90s, they had become reliable enough that you could drive them daily, but they still had an experience that was kind of still analog, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's part of it for me. It's like every time I sit in my Nova twin cam and take it for a spin, I know that it's not safe. I know that it's it doesn't have luxuries of new cars. There's probably I guess part of it is just knowing that it's a little bit more of a raw connection, and that's kind of what I dig about it. And also just driving it around, I just kind of look around and like I'm gonna find one person that looks at it, be like, oh wow, a Chevy Nova twin cam. I'm gonna drive around for maybe 20 years, and then I'll finally find that one person that understands what this car is.
That's a fine endeavor.
Yeah.
I like it. I think one of the reasons I admire your collection is that it speaks to cars that really lie outside the mainstream, even though they're based on mainstream cars.
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of like you're looking at flashes of effort by a manufacturer that I don't know. It's like they actually tried something different.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're not expecting a wide audience.
Sure.
There are very few runaway successes like that. I would say a lightning in a bottle happens the E30 is a great example. The E30 platform,
sure.
It was designed as a car, sedan, coupe, wagon.
Yep.
Well, wagon came afterwards, but you know what I mean. It's like it's not like BMW set out to design an iconic car.
Sure.
It just happened to capture all of that at once. That also happened to be a bestseller.
Yeah.
You take a look at the Grand Prix Turbo. You take a look at the twin cam.
Yeah.
The Stanza wagon. These are wonderful, delightful treasures that not everybody knows, even within the canon of those cars.
Yeah, and I think that sort of made me think of also. I appreciate that along the way, whoever has owned these vehicles before me, for whatever reason, took the time to care for them that made them last until 2019. Especially for a car that the Stanza wagon should have been crushed years ago. I mean, there's no reason
on its own volition.
Exactly.
It's like it hit a curb or something.
Yeah, exactly, and it just falls apart. Yeah, but I think that's another reason why I like some of the cars that I'm drawn to is that I'm just astounded that they have made it to today. And if I think about how many Chevy Nova twin cams are still on the road, 20? I don't know. I mean, they made
in what condition?
Sure, exactly. They made like
how
3,000
many people
of them.
do know what that car is?
I mean, very few people. I mean, most people that see it, they might remember the Nova, but certainly wouldn't remember the twin cam. And I guess for the twin cam, that was one of those cars that I saw when I was 18 and I had a chance to buy one and I didn't do it. So for a long time, I just looked for it and I could never find it. And it took, I don't know how old I am now. It took me years and years and years and years to find another one, and that was kind of just it's just I had to buy it when I saw it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how could I not, even if it sucked, I still had to like see what it was like,
If it matched up with what was in your head or
Sure.
if it was just a complete failure.
Yeah, exactly.
just real quick to add on, for me at least, it's like protecting an endangered species.
You're not wrong.
There's not many of those twin cams left. So if you are the keeper of it, you got to really be the one to look after it and make sure it survives and stays out on the road for, if anything, historical purposes. In a
Sure.
way. That's kind of the way. At least
That's why I still have that Geo that I'm like, well,
right.
I
Yeah,
have to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so few of those left, and even though it's not in the best shape, it could be one day, with some time, effort, and money, it'll be back up and going, and preserved for.
Yeah, you're preserving a specific piece of history.
Correct. Yeah. To a lot of people out there, they're going to look at it and like, oh, it's just some old piece of crap rolling down the highway, but like anybody that's within this community or like-minded, they're going to look at it and be like, whoa, I have not seen one of those.
And even then, those base prisms are few and far between at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
You get
never
to
see them.
A twin cam.
They're gone.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a pretty good place to wrap up, I think. I mean, we've been chatting for quite a while. I don't want to
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we can definitely wrap it up. We can touch real quick on the upcoming event this very weekend. We have Redwood in Las Vegas.
We're going to Redwood, Vegas.
We are.
I thought I was going to get a 944 turbo out of it, but that's not going to happen.
No. It's not.
Brad's not going to bring it down for me, so I'll have to find another way to get that car.
So we're gonna unrat it up in the fit, but
okay, that's fine.
It's fine.
We'll make some stops along the way. Hoover Dam.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got to go see
stop
that.
there. Okay,
we'll have some fun. We'll have a good time. So yeah, that's this weekend, and it is going to be the first night event for Redwood. They're going to start the show at 4. I mean, I guess it's not night, but it's not in the morning, but.
It's a lot of glow in the dark and neon.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be at the Las Vegas Convention Center under the lights there. So, should be pretty cool.
Yeah.
It should be. It will be pretty cool.
Yes,
so
of course.
It'll be good to see everybody out there, and we look forward to that. So, that's kind of the big thing that's going on this weekend. I can't think of anything else upcoming.
There's also Malaise Days this weekend.
The same day.
Yeah.
I know.
That's right.
I know.
Yeah. So, Malaise Days is, I believe, at the Automobile Driving Museum.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Again this year, and for those of you stuck in Los Angeles, it's a cool little jaunt just to see the space and the cars that are inside. But then the Malaise Motors cars outside from 1972 to 1995. It's a wide gamut, but it's a pretty great, weird collection of cars by people who really, really love that era.
Yeah.
You're going to see everything from like perfectly preserved, 73 Plymouth Satellites to beat up, Oldsmobile 98s to, believe it or not, a Dodge Viper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
disqualify.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, and think about it. I mean, back when the Viper came out, I mean, the car magazines were going, oh my God, 400 horsepower. How are we ever going to surpass that?
Will not get any better than this, everybody.
And now a Lincoln Continental has 400 horsepower from a V6.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I forgot about that one. I apologize about that. I know that's a very, very big deal. I want to go to that one. Not this year, obviously, because we're going to be in Vegas, but maybe next year they'll plan it a little bit differently. We, can maybe inspire people to not do Redwood Vegas the same time as Malaise Days.
Yes, I know.
Because that would be a fun event. So cool. So that's what we got going on this weekend. Very, very good. I think that pretty much wraps it up.
So where can people find you? Where can they find you if they want to learn more?
I keep promising to build a website, and just like
the websites are kind of outdated now, aren't they? I mean, nobody goes to websites.
Should I get a zine or a blog?
Exactly.
Yeah, Tumblr.
Yep.
You can find my work on Motor Trend or Autoweek, Haggerty. I love writing for those places, and I guess that's where you can find me.
All right. Great.
Awesome.
What about you, Paul?
You could find me at Instagram at Charade Life. That's Charade_Life, Life, where I am posting up lots of pictures of my Honda Fit. So I'll get back to the charade stuff soon.
Yes.
Oh, I guess you can find me on social media.
Yeah.
Sorry
I mean, I
about
wasn't.
that.
That's all good. That's fine. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's like
No.
You can talk about that too.
And this is what I think about the internet. Look, your name's already out there, so you might as well use it.
Yeah.
So you can find me at Derek Powell on Twitter and at Derek Lane Powell on Instagram.
Nice. Yep. And I'm at youtube.com/hello road. I'm giving away an E38. You should probably make a video to enter to win because very few people have done this. And the odds are very good that you can win this E38. So you should probably go do that. And then you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Ethan Tufts. So I think that's our podcast.
I think so. Thanks, Derek, for coming in. We appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. Really had a lot of fun.
Nice.
Have a good night, everybody.